Hello and welcome to our 5th grade science lesson this week. You guys probably already know the parts of an insect. Head, thorax, abdomen, the fact that they have compound eyes and they have 2 pairs of wings, and the differences between them and something like a spider, which has 2 body parts because the head and thorax are fused into a cephalothorax, and 8 legs instead of 6. You also probably know that they are different from something like a scorpion, which has 10 legs and 2 body parts. Okay, this scorpion was actually found in the Bruneau Dunes in Idaho. So we do have scorpions here in Idaho, but they're out in the desert. They're not up north here. Okay? But, well, I shouldn't say but. Some of you guys were able to see our food web lesson last year, where we talked about the connections between insects and grasses and seeds and small mammals and birds and snakes and how they all weave together in this big web of support in a system, say a meadow or a coral reef or something like that. They all help support with predator-prey relationships, the balance of the system. And last year when we did our food web assignment, we talked about what happens if one of those collapses. So if we suddenly got rid of all of the spiders, we would have too many bugs, and then other things would come to eat those bugs, and then we would have too many of those. So balance in the system is really important. If you have something like a fire, or if you have all of the coral die or something like that, it's going to affect the balance of the system. One of the things that Elizabeth talked about was the lives of bees. And bees are really important. One thing I wanted to challenge you guys with, since you're a little bit older, is thinking about the mouth parts of insects and how maybe they have adapted to their specific areas. Let me see if I can pull the lid off this box here with a knife, right? Okay, my little plexiglass. So if we look at, say, katydid. We got a nice little katydid here. I don't know if you can see her mouth parts. Are those chewing mouth parts, piercing mouth parts, sucking mouth parts? Are they sponging mouth parts? The mouth parts of this insect, you need light on it, are chewing mouth parts. What do you think that this animal chews?
Grass.
Grass.
Leaves.
Yeah, seeds. Grasshoppers, and we have a lot of different species of grasshoppers through here. Most of them are camouflaged to blend in with their environment, but occasionally they will, when they get enough members of a species, grasshoppers will change. And I wish you could have seen this thing in life. It was black and gold. It was really brightly colored. They change shape and they just become an army, and they turn into locusts. A locust and a grasshopper is essentially the same thing, but there's a hormonal difference and there's a behavioral difference. When they hit a critical mass, they just become this machine that moves through and gets rid of whole fields of anything green. So these are really important for economy, especially in the Middle East. And some people actually eat these. They are essentially little bug cows. So they eat grasses and they're not really going to hurt you. And a lot of people deep fry crickets and eat them. Sometimes you can find crickets that have been candied and eat those. Bugs can be an important source of protein in some parts of the world. Now this guy, I'm sure you know, is a dragonfly. I'm going to pull up a piece of paper. Hopefully you can see him a little bit better. Her, actually, this is a she. Very clearly 2 pairs of wings, head, thorax, abdomen, 6 legs, and really aggressive chewing mouth parts. Dragonflies are really important in killing mosquitoes, actually, over ponds. They're voracious mosquito eaters. They are excellent flyers. And scientists actually study the structure of this thorax. It's really boxy and square, and how the wings, the forewing will create turbulence for the hind wing, and how the dragonfly gets over that. And they're using that to create flying algorithms for drones, because dragonflies are such great flyers. And their thorax is shaped very specifically. So those are really cool. But these guys also have chewing mouth parts, but they don't eat leaves, they eat other bugs. Okay, so let's look at another kind of mouth part here. Let's put our plexiglass back on here. I'll try not to make this too long of a video because it'll be hard to upload. All right, so in this box, we have dipteras, which are flies. And most flies have sponging mouth parts. They actually will spit onto your food and soak it up like a sponge. And that's why flies spread germs. Some flies, though, if you've ever been bitten by a horsefly, clearly have chewing mouth parts, and they do bite. Let's look down here. All of these guys are your hymenopterids, so your bees and your wasps. And we have termites and ants in this family as well. I think I have, there's a termite right there. And unfortunately, her label was never finished. But here's a good bee tongue. If we can get a piece of paper under this one, you can see her tongue sticking out. So bees have lapping, licking, sucking like a straw mouth parts. It's really more like a tongue that laps like a dog or a cat would lap at a bowl of water. But bees do also have chewing mouth parts. So let's pull out one of our big bumblebees, and we'll be able to see those great big chewing mouth parts, hopefully, if we can get the camera to focus on it. Those great big jaws underneath there. This particular bee actually tried to chew through my net. Why do you think a bee would have chewing mouth parts and licking mouth parts? They're one of the few insects that have two different kinds. So what do you think, Lizzie?
I think it would be because they chew on stuff and they suck up maybe nectar on flowers.
Yeah, nectar and pollen. They gather pollen and nectar both. There's a stinger down there too. Bumblebees are solitary. Honeybees tend to live in a colony. Because bumblebees are solitary, they might have to aggressively defend themselves. They have to build their own tunnels and nests, and they might need jaws to do that. They also would need jaws to sculpt wax or tunnels or capsules for their eggs and larvae. Leafcutter bees have jaws that they actually use to cut little round discs of leaf out that they lay their eggs on, because the larvae that hatch eat all those little leaf parts. So it's important for them to have two different kinds of mouth parts. Now wasps, I don't know if I've got any good jaws on wasps, but this is a spider wasp. He runs around on the ground and kills spiders. She will sting them and bury them in the ground so they're paralyzed, and then lay her eggs on the spider. And her larva will hatch out and eat the spider and then turn into a pupa and then hatch out of the ground as an adult spider wasp. So she has chewing mouth parts, really dexterous legs, because they run fast and they have to be able to catch up to a spider. And they do have stingers with venom. They also very clearly have two pairs of wings, which all insects do. Now this next one is going to be a little bit tricky. We have a cicada here. Now this group is hemipteras, these groups are homopterans. Both of these guys have sucking mouth parts, and this group of bugs has their front pair of wing is half hard and half soft. And these guys, the homopterans, the whole wing is all thin and membranous. But you can actually see the second wing underneath this first one, that there very clearly is two pairs of wings. This family, or some of these orders are known because they hold their wings in a tent-like shape at an angle over their back instead of flat on their back. That's how you know those. Now we're going to try and show you the mouth parts on this cicada. Hemipterans and homopterans both have sucking mouth parts. What do you think they suck, Lizzie?
There we tree go. Parts, tree sap.
Oh, there we go. Now you see it? That little stick? I've got the piece of paper underneath that little piercing mouth part. This cicada will actually pierce through the trunk of a tree and suck the juices out of a plant, which wouldn't be that bad, except that they can also carry a lot of viral diseases for trees and flowers and all kinds of things. And some of these little tiny leaf hoppers are the same way. You find these little leaf hoppers in your grass, and they can be a problem for commercial crops if they carry diseases. All right, some of these little guys. We got scale insects now. This guy is really cool. Is he the right one? Nope, he's the wrong one. Let's get our rediviids. This is a rediviid. It's a hemiptera. So he has piercing mouth parts. But if you look at his front legs, they look like little clubs, don't they? These are actually folded on top of each other. And they have front legs like a praying mantis. They grab other bugs and they stick that piercing mouth part into a bug and they suck the juices out of a bug. So we do actually have carnivores in this group of insects, which is kind of cool. Some of the water beetles that you find, like this little water guy, he's called a water boatman, is not actually a beetle. He is a true bug, a hemipteran. He has piercing mouth parts, and he does feed on other insects. So you can actually get bitten by these guys. They won't hurt you. It'll be a little itchy spot, but some of them can pierce your skin and bite you. Okay, these little water striders here also have piercing mouth parts, but they have a tendency to not bite humans. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so let's close this box. Talking a lot about mouth parts today. Chewing mouth parts and sucking mouth parts and licking mouth parts. We got a few more mouth parts here to show you. A few different kinds of bugs. Now, these are all of the beetles. The beetles are the most numerous order of insects. There are more species of beetle than there are of any other kind of bug. And we have ones that are commercially viable because these are the Cerambyces, long-horned wood-boring beetles. They have a tendency to have grubs that can gird a whole tree. So they will actually eat the underbark and they'll make it so that they cut off the flow of water in a tree. This flat guy over here, Buprestidae, these are metallic wood-boring beetles, and these have been known in the state of Idaho, not this particular species, but to hurt whole forests full of pine trees because their larvae do that. These little guys over here just eat pollen. They are no problems at all. Ladybugs, of course, you know, the Coccinellidae, they eat bad bugs. They eat aphids. They love to eat aphids. These guys, I can't wait to show you these guys. These are tiger beetles, and this species of tiger beetle was discovered by my professor, actually, as being only living in one place in the whole world, and that is in the Bruneau Dunes Desert in Idaho. So we have a species of insect here in Idaho that lives nowhere else in the world. And he's got some serious jaws. Can you see those jaws? See the jaws? Great big jaws. These guys are voracious eaters, and they fight each other. Just like a deer with antlers. But these are really cool tiger beetles that live in Idaho. This is a Vietnamese walking stick. Just like a grasshopper, he's got chewing mouth parts and he eats leaves, right?
Yeah.
And I told Lizzie that these were raised in a zoo to feed the bats, and I just happened to get one. This is a Madagascar hissing cockroach that was raised by my professor. And cockroaches, I don't know if you can see this one. All these three were actually found in Idaho. We do have cockroaches here. They do have 2 pairs of wings. They do fly at night. They do chew. They eat all the little crumbs that you leave, and they don't really carry any diseases. They don't really cause any major problems, so don't freak out about them, but you probably need to keep your kitchen a little cleaner, or your bedroom if you found them there. The last kind of mouth part that we have is in our last box. We saved the prettiest for last. Lizzie asked me to.
Yeah, I really like these ones.
Our butterflies and our moths have sucking mouth parts, but they're not piercing. The mouth parts on these guys are actually very soft. They cannot pierce your skin. And it's rolled up. Let's see if I can get a piece of paper under this one. I chose one of the biggest ones. This might not be the best example, but this little tiny roll, it's actually all rolled up inside her face right there. It might not be easy to see. I don't think I have a good. Oh, let's try the Sphinx moth. She might be easier to see on her. Oh, this poor Sphinx moth got eaten by the domestids. Okay, so this one, you see this long line underneath her face? That is actually her rolled up tube. Like a straw, she will stick that into a flower and suck out all the nectar. But again, it's not hard, it's not piercing, they can't bite you. Okay, moths tend to be really important pollinators at night. There are some plants that can only be pollinated by a moth. Some are pollinated by insects, beetles or flies. And of course, a lot of our commercial crops are pollinated by bees. Bees are really important.
15 minutes.
For your assignment, Lizzie wanted me to emphasize the bees, but I'm not going to do that. If you're interested in the bees, there is a link below where you can look up and watch a video about colony collapse disorder and write me a paragraph. You can also look at these different mouth parts and talk to me about why you think certain mouth parts have adapted for certain places. And if you have any questions about them, is there a mouth part that does this? Is there a bug that does this? Please feel free to ask me. I would also love it if you could go outside this weekend and find me a bug you've never seen or your favorite bug and tell me what you know about it. What it eats, where it lives, why it's important in the food web, or just what you like about it. Feel free to post me a picture, comments, questions. I'm happy to answer anything that you have about bugs. Take care, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.